It ends at 3 minutes and 35 seconds. So
Yep.
I think I need to go grab another.
How about you check now? And let me know.
No, you ain't live yet. Now you are. There it is.
I'm gonna have to go back and try. I have your link open so many times. I think it's getting confused. So which one?
Oh, it's not raining. No rain.
Is the track wet though? That's the question.
No, dry. Bone dry.
Daniel.
Daniel Pino.
Daniel.
What up, Daniel?
John Drennan.
Daniel the Pino.
Daniel
20 minutes drive.
Hey, I'm not trying to hate, but I don't see it up. I can't. Like the link you had in there, it's still just a 3 minute 35 second of
Look at the
starting
count.
soon.
Look at the count. It's not that same video.
Tonight, I will finish
Yeah, hold on
the
1
day
second.
in free carry.
I'm going to your account. Here's the live. I found the live, man. It's hitting a little bit. You're gonna have to have a dedicated fan base to find it. I gotta let you know that.
Yep. Yep, it's pretty small at the moment.
Daniel the Pino.
I will not.
Daniel,
I
you're
will
almost
not
3K.
going to bed till I got 3K.
Welcome to the 3K gang.
Yeah, I am close. I am in 2.8 right now.
Ooh.
Are you doing this too, Daniel?
Yeah, right now I am in the Simicube.
Oh, gotcha.
40 minutes. And sadly, Nurburgring I don't have the track, so
Where's Simicube at?
40 minutes.
Where is it at?
Imola.
Imola. Hey, are you still watching my stream? Can you tell me if you can hear the group chat, me, and the game when it starts?
You guys yeah, I can, but at the same time, I need to turn it up. Hang on a second.
I'm just curious if I have it set right.
I think I do hear everybody in the background, but let me
You hear me?
Yeah, hold on. Well, actually, I can't tell you to hold on. It's live, and you gotta.
I gotta wait. Yeah.
Hold on.
I gotta wait. Yeah. Are you hearing me? I mean, I think the game comes through, but I hope at least both of us, or everybody else does too. Yeah, I have no idea what that is from. So if I think I know where it's from, I'm closing that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
So I'm a VR guy. So there's a thing called Speed Chat, and it allows. It's like a web-based client, and it allows it to read off. It'll read off like group chats while you're in VR. Yeah, I forgot to put my setup on.
Second delay, so our conference.
Alright, cool. Alright, I just wanted to make sure I set it. only time I ever got almost sick was the first time I flipped the car in Formula 4. And I like had to whip that shit off my head real quick. I was like, like I have no idea where I'm at. And then but like other than that, I don't get it. It doesn't mess with my head. I've done a couple of those, but I don't know. Maybe my brain didn't register it. Yeah, there might have been a few like little times that I like made a quick movement and it kind of like threw me off. Yeah.
I agree with you completely, and how competent your setup is. Like an example is part of why I didn't do so well on triples was where my rig was and the distance, the triples were too far away from me, and it just didn't work. You know what I'm saying? My setup was part of the problem. So I'm not talking shit on triples. My triple setup was not as good as yours. So
I have a VR, I don't have it fully set up, so like when I turn it's like water, it looks like it's water.
that's a problem. Everybody does that as the problem. NVIDIA's putting in 2 series cards. So from what I understand, you have to buy some type of dedicated phase buy card that runs at a super high voltage, just short distance, instead of like a new Wi-Fi for your house, which is, and you can get
No, we gotta mess with your Oculus, we gotta switch you to OpenXR, we gotta do a bunch of stuff to yours, John. He's running Oculus, he's probably running way too high a hertz. There's all kinds of things I haven't had a chance to do. Yeah, I think it was said it was sunset. I did it again. Literally.
Merc. Just you wait.
Oh, dude, he's fast in a Porsche.
Just be like a second quicker than everyone. He's not letting Carlos win.
Well, whoever decided to run GT3 for the IMSA series in HPR.
Oh.
P17 all got repairs. Vulcan got repairs.
You guys are
Vulcan needs
actually
to pit for
stupid.
My car.
13 minutes and 55
You can
seconds
literally
left.
see the yellow. You decide to
20
fucking
first
rear
position
end.
short got
Great job,
repairs.
dickhead.
PG3?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the 17 car. They did the
Where?
exact same
And the McLaren at
level of stupid to me, too.
It's alright, it's literally how I feel every
Doing
day
the
playing this
CBQ?
game, so.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just in a testing session.
Oh.
But I will be doing
This is so silly. There was like 20 cars stopped.
Yeah, that's what Daniel
the track.
Daniel Porsche at Imola.
Yeah, I was watching their
Holy
cockpit view, watching them
shit.
do it too. It was
I just
really
had a mini heart attack.
absurd.
Imola got me to 2K this were 2K this weekend.
Like, it was so easy to tell that there was a giant wreck there and you just had to get through it and you're gonna pick up like 10 spots. But no.
I am happy. 0x, D8 in top split.
You don't start up with one man, don't push in the brakes when losing it.
Nice.
This work let me buy.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of falling in love
I
with the
don't want to
Beamer
have this
slowly.
on you.
Slowly falling in love with the Beamer.
Are the yellows just an advisory, or are you actually expected to slow down for them, or you'll get a penalty?
Advisory.
Thank you.
Good penalties.
Why did you need to rear end me? Come on! Thanks for the 9x, dickhead.
I just overtook someone on the grass.
Fuck MX points.
Tires on the grass.
Don't know if anyone answered, but yes, you're supposed to slow down for the yellows. No, there's no penalty for them.
Yeah, thank you.
Some of you need to learn how to drive.
Here's a technical question for you guys. Other than immersion factor, the amount of strength of force feedback you're running on your wheel, other than the immersion factor, like, is there actually a benefit for more? Is it giving you more feedback or
Yes.
different feedback at?
Yes.
Okay. And at what level
I think that
is
does mean
like
you
the
can report
minimum
people for it,
that
though,
it's
you know,
giving you the
last due to
proper
a
amount
crash
that
thing.
you need to be hearing?
Dude, I
Like, is
change
that like
mine. Dude, I change
18?
mine sometimes by the day. If I've had a fucking crazy
17
workout,
is
like
light.
there's sometimes light is enough, but then in the wet, I need to turn it up because it's super sensitive. Like it makes like hyper small movement like when it comes to like your tire sensitivities. Dude, you gotta play with it and like look at then it's based off of the system and like fine tunings you can do.
What system
I
are
know-
you running?
So I'm on a Fanatec DD Gran Turismo. What is that? I'm sorry, I should know that. It's the Gran Turismo Fanatec Direct Drive.
How many newton meters?
It goes up to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah. I mean, mine goes to 26. I mean, mine goes to 26 and I don't even run it that high.
Yeah, like I've been driving so much that like it just like it was getting out of hand. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
you want to
an
turn
unfit person.
you want to turn the newton meters up as high as you can, but it doesn't mean the feedback. Like you can turn the other dampers, like you can turn some of that stuff up. You can turn your other feedback options like up and down as well. It doesn't just have to be like. Which ones?
Natural friction.
My friction's off and the next one is, so the next one is based off of the car. So like, I have a profile for every car. So there's certain cars that are super strong, so like instead of running deep, I'll run linear. But instead of running 10 on my camper, I'll run like 20 or 25 and I'll offset it. So like it still has the strength, but it doesn't have like the fucking the fucking vibration that fucks you up. But then the interpolation, whatever, however the hell you say that.
Interpolation filter.
That is like, that allows you to soften the actual strength of, I look at it as the car. So if that car's steering is crazy strong and heavy and wacko, based off of the way I like to run it, I put that up. Like right now I'm in the BMW GT4, the profile I have it at is set between like 4 and 6.
Okay, so I don't sound like I'm that far off. So
No, I mean, but as long as you know, like as long as you realize, like every car, and then that if you're in the tuning menu, the most important thing I believe that really does change the feel is the next column over. The damper, whatever.
The interpolation filter, the next one is force effect intensity, and I'm running that at 80%.
No, on the actual, like, on the computer software.
Yeah, there's tuning menu, and the next one is dynamic force.
Yeah, that one. That's the one that is very car specific with like the speeds, thresholds, and the I couldn't tell you to save my life like how it, but it's important.
Like I found, like in I think it was the iRacing forums or something like that. Someone had this website.
Yeah, just go to the fantasy. Yeah, that's what I did too. So most of them are right. The only thing that I find that I tend to like to do with those for certain cars is I take the top line, the minimum speed, and I bring it down. And I bring it down a little bit based off of like the track or just like where I'm comfortable, because I don't love it to pop up or go away mid-corner. So I kind of play with that like the first couple of practice laps. But I'm super ADHD and sensitive, so like I overthink everything, but then some people are the same way. Some people it's really bad for, so I kind of tend to shut my mouth, but a lot of the times it's more than what people want.
Kind of play with it, like watch a couple
I'll go
YouTube
what?
videos or do some research on Reddit and stuff like that. Get like a base contrast.
Yeah, or just test drive and just like literally go from one end of the spectrum to the other, and then you got to go like it's got to be a Christmas tree effect. So like, you know, you start crazy wide, and then by the time you get to the top, you got a pretty little star.
So alright, so you guys answered. I think my stuff is pretty close.
You're on the right path for what you're doing, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to spend a huge amount of more time and like find out I've been running for the last like 2 months and not getting information through my hands that I'm looking for.
No, I don't think so. You can dial everything back. Like dude, a lot of mine, like again, yours is 8. Mine goes to 26. So like that
running?
What? DD2?
The wheelbase.
DD2.
It goes all the way up to 26.
24 or 26? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an even number. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I think I turned mine back. It was getting to the point with even with gloves, the blisters on them. Like,
so like then okay, so like well then if it's you don't want it to be like, I'll be honest with you, like I'm not a sweaty guy. There's some races that I sweat. I don't sweat, dude. Like, I really don't. Like, when I do my endurance races, I'll sit here. I ran the last 4 hours of Bathurst when we won,
Buena, Martin.
and I was tired as shit, but I was
Yeah, I
not
get it.
sweat.
You
Like,
weren't
so
in
my
the snow.
wheel,
I get
my
it.
wheels, my wheel's not heavy. It is. My wheel's not strong. It's.
But it gives you all the information.
Yes. Like as I'm turning, like it has enough for it to, like, if it's starting to plow, I mean, I guess we're all American. If it starts to plow, which is, you know, you're starting to get understeer, it'll chatter. Like it has enough to go back into my left hand. If I'm going right and it's wanting to go back left, it has enough to still go, so I can feel that, so I can give a little lift off throttle or whatever I need to do, turn in a little more, whatever the situation. It has enough for that, but dude, I'm not strong manning the wheel. You're not gonna feel it because you're fucking god. Like, you should just be shoulder blades. Like, your shoulder blades shouldn't leave the seat.
Agreed.
When you turn the wheel, your shoulder blade should stay on the back of the seat. So you shouldn't be fighting that. Like, you shouldn't be so sore all the time. You know what I mean? Now, if you bench 700 pounds, if you're fucking, you know, Saquon Barkley, then yeah, of course you're gonna need more. But you don't want it so strong you miss those little inputs. You want to dial the inputs in, but then dial out the strength, so you're not. So you can go 3 or 4 hours.
You answered my question. That's exactly what I was asking and going for, and I was asking that because that's exactly what I want.
Like, so, yeah, like what you fucking downloaded, you probably downloaded it for, let me guess, was it like for the 15 Newton meter setups?
No, they had it right for.
They had it for yours, because the ones that I downloaded, I had to kind of dial up a little bit because they were like for 15 Newton meters, which is fine. I run a lot of my stuff at that. I don't need to go to 26. But, I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe taking away some of the, you know, interpolation, you can dial that back a little bit so you can strengthen the wheel and then take out the force feedback. Like, dial down the, whatever it's called. What is it?
Sensitivity.
Yeah, the
the
force feedback strength. The force feedback strength. You can take some of that down. Like, mine's so fucking strong, dude. It's crazy. Like, I run mine I'm at 40 in this car. Certain, like, LMP2s and stuff, I only need it at 35. And then I dialed the little things that give me the, you know, the feel. Because I want to go for hours. I love endurance racing. Like, that's what I enjoy. So, like, I don't need to be whooped.
Yeah, you want the feedback and the sensitivity, not the workout.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page. So my wheel is, my base is the Fanatec Gran Turismo DD Pro. I knew it was a Gran Turismo.
Yeah, I mean, Fanatec, like, I can help you through the adjustments. It's just you're going to have to over...
David, need 2 things.
Some of the stuff that I use, like the interpolation, to compensate for some of the strength, you might just need to dial that out. You know what I mean? You might want to dial that out, because all that does is smoothen or lighten, if you will, the wheelbase, like the feel of the wheel. Yeah, I don't know. However you learn, it's really good to, like, watch, like, tips and, like, you know, but then don't just copy, but, you know, if you're like, oh, this guy drives like me, like, throw that on there and then go one way or the other, or, like, watch a video on one specific setting instead of all things, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just kind of however you learn, but you're in the right ballpark. But I think you need to dial out strength and dial up, like, the feeling of the car is probably where you're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. you guys faring? Got spun early, so I hope neither am I. Yeah. Yeah, going home like I rocked them in gym class today. Oh, give me like May 28th of my senior year. That way I'm all learned up. Variante Alta. He's talking about Variante Alta. It's after you go up the hill, the uphill left, and you go downhill. It's that swooping downhill right, and then it's like a horseshoe. It's the biggest cunt of the turn on the whole circuit. Slow? Dude, you gotta go so much slower in. Take off more of the inside curve. You're gonna have to bounce. Alright. After you go around the left-hand hairpin after sector 1, you go up the hill and around the fast left-hand bend. Quick hit a downshift or a quick brake. And then you go down the hill, and it's those two corners where you go down the hill, hard right, it shallows out into the base and goes right back up the hill, and then off to the left to the chicane. Where's the race at Just look up online what solution is soaking. I'm sure there is something out there that'll kill it. Don't tell him to heat it up. Don't tell him to heat it up. He's in Vegas. It's hot. So dumb, bro. No patience. Yeah, I knew he was going to, so I just like still, what a dumbass. Dude, this dude's wrecked so many times in front of me. Actually, no, go ahead. I can't wait till that Was it for that one night? You. Oh, the one that was... the one that was quite questionable? You're like, ah, I don't care. Yeah, for a period of time it does. After a little while, I don't think, but like right after, yeah. How do you get into the pits here? Wait, for combined? Like for the combined as well? For the combined, yes. Yeah, the one that goes down the street. Like after you come off of like the fences, you just like bust a right, like in that little opening. Okay. Yeah, okay. Then yeah, I think I know where it's at. Well, I got spawned and I had to go to the pits. So I mean, I've only pulled out, you know. I'm excited for the VR one, the update to the VR stuff. Probably just compensating what we've already had to do, but we'll see. tell by like, oh, okay, turn 14. All right, sector probably 2 or 3. All right, I'm not there quite yet.
You need to pit head for fuel. 5.51 gallons remaining. 1 when returning. 1 here.
Okay, boys. I need to focus up here. P1.
3 minutes optional left.
It has almost slowed down.
Two minutes optional left.
I know y'all missed me.
John, I need you to shut up for 10 minutes, please.
Oh my god, excuses.
It's my first P1 quali in a 2200 split.
Oh, you're on the
1 minute 30 optional left.
What? Yeah. Honey, I gotta focus right now. Yes, sell the car.
Hey, do you want a Frosty?
Do you want a Frosty?
Of course he wants a Frosty. What kind of fucking question is that?
She just asked me if she
A
wanted
rhetorical.
She just asked me if she wanted a Frosty, man. Calm
Let
down.
him focus. He's literally going green right now.
60 optional left.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
New leader is Humphreys. Optional left. Seconds optional left. 10 seconds optional left.
Fastest time.
Nah, I'm the fastest.
Daniel, their
Yeah,
average.
but I need you.
I'm doing IMSA at 10:45 after I get done with this, but I gotta go watch it. Yeah, spawn wet LP2. Well, if you can do that, it's gonna be wet.
23 in class. Good job. Class P22 now.
2013, I think, the last.
Oh yeah, I was still alive. I was alive. Let's go.
He was
Barely.
just reaching aliveness.
No, I was.